Tell you what,
Yes?
how about if I learn and someone puts this up for me?
What do you think?
This is the story about a man who loves his job.
My name is Paul Harvey. I'm head custodian at Orchard Hill Elementary School.
A reading teacher with an art background whose job is
Supporting children that are struggling with their reading and writing and their math skills.
and a mischievous fellow dressed in green who used to show up once a year. That all changed when the man asked the teacher for some literary guidance.
One day I went to Kathy in the hallway and I asked her if she can check out the spelling and everything.
You see, Paul had written a book, and for him, that was no small accomplishment.
I'm dyslexic, but back in my days, they didn't know anything about it. My father, I feel bad for him because he spent a lot of money on tutors and stuff like that, and they didn't know anything. So, growing up, it was hard for me because I had that wall around me, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to write anything down because I figured I couldn't.
But Kathy read the book Paul had written, and
a week later, she came back with the spelling and pictures, and I looked at it and I said, well, let me try seeing what a publisher would do with it.
the result, Shamus Goes to School.
Shamus is a leprechaun that is asked to come to the United States to see if the kids actually believe in leprechauns. He comes through a rainbow and he turns into human form and becomes a custodian at an elementary school and plays jokes and everything with the kids.
Remind you of anyone? It happens that Mr. Harvey has had a fascination with leprechauns for a long time.
Of course, I'm very aware of his antics on St. Patrick's Day, and my own children have gone through this school district, and they remember it as well.
What they remember is a certain character who appeared on the roof of Orchard Hill Elementary every year on St. Patrick's Day. We weren't able to confirm the true identity of that mischievous sprite,
There's a real leprechaun lurking around.
but most likely he was the inspiration for Shamus.
Keep him dreaming.
And Mr. Harvey kept on dreaming and writing.
Second book, Shamus Meets George Washington. He's over in Pennsylvania, ready to cross the Delaware. Christmas Eve, Shamus and his flying dog, Rocco, they actually went and crossed the Delaware with George and his troops to the old barracks in Trenton. Thinking about our forefathers and what they had to go through to make this country the way it is. The next book we're doing is Betsy Ross. Of course, that would be the Betsy Ross house. And then we're going to go on to Paul Revere, and we're just going to keep going on.
We really value reading and writing at our school. From kindergarten on, the children are learning to be writers and learning to be readers, and we really nurture that here. It's the foundation of their learning throughout their, entire schooling here in Montgomery.
Hi, kids.
We were just so excited that we have a homegrown author right in our school, and we just can show the kids that, wow, I can do that too someday. You just have to have a great idea and have that motivation to do it.
Let me introduce myself. I am Shamus, and I'm a leprechaun.
The PTA asked us to read to a classroom. We read to the classroom. I asked Kathy to read it because, as I said, even to this day, sometimes the words, so she reads everything smoother than I do.
The general knew what they wanted was unfair. He explained to me that all people needed to feel free and to make their own decisions and live happy lives. He knew that this was worth fighting for.
The school is close to all the historic sites, the old barracks, the Princeton battlefield. As a matter of fact, I do have a section there mentioning the old barracks, the address and everything, in hopes that when the children read these books, they'll ask their mom and dad to take them to these sites.
Girls and boys, do you think that Shamus is a good teacher?
Yes!
What are some of the things that you learned today from Shamus?
It happened in 1776 around.
Yeah. What was the weather like, by the way, that you just heard? Here.
It was very snowy.
And?
Cold.
Cold. At least Rocco had a nice coat on him, correct?
How do you do?
I have a little friend named Shamus. He's a real leprechaun. He tells me the stories. him and Rocco fly into my house and say, hey, I got a good little story for you, I do. And he tells me it. And then I write it down, get a hold of Mrs. Grover. She draws the pictures. Kathy is a huge part of this book, as well as the staff here at Orchard Hill, because of the confidence they gave me. The first day I saw Kathy in the hallway, when I gave her the script and asked her if she could read it and maybe change it a little bit, I'll never forget, she smiled, winked, and said I'd be glad to. And, you know, we've been partners ever since.
See that twinkle in Mr. Harvey's eye? Sure, there's a bit of the old mischief you'd expect when you're dealing with a leprechaun, but mostly that's the magic he writes about, the dreams that inspire children to find their own rainbows, because that really is the rest of the story.